This is Parker Hesse.
This is Sam Branks.
You have the pleasure of listening to Hawkeyes and Tallboys. Cheers, motherfuckers.
Welcome to the Hawkeyes and Tallboys podcast, featuring your hosts, Bo Freeborn.
You know, guys, even though we get 2 conference losses, we're still going to end up 9-3. We're going to win the West, for sure.
Dylan Pond.
Here's the thing, fellas. I'm going with it. 12-0, baby. We're going to do it. Let's fucking go. Woo!
And Rob Wall.
I mean, that would be shocking. But we can do it. I mean, I think we can.
So crack a tall boy and go Hawks.
Okay, welcome into a great episode of Hawkeyes and Tallboys, episode number 38. I'm Rob.
I'm Dylan.
And I'm Bo.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, boys.
Woo, cheers.
Oh, been waiting to drink this for way too long.
That's mighty tasty after a long 3-day work week.
And even more tastier after a Hawkeye win on the basketball side. We're coming on to you on Wednesday night here since we have a Friday night game this week. And the Iowa Hawkeyes defeated the North Carolina Central. I don't even know.
I think they're the Eagles.
They're the Eagles by a lot of points. So
30.
30 point. It was the 30
And,
point.
and they were lucky to even get the game in because I know North Carolina Central had been dealing with some COVID issues and whatnot in the last week. So a little worried about getting that game in, but they did. And, oh, boy, they sure looked good. I thought, in particular, freshman Keegan Murray, it's like he's going to be a playmaker for us. Luka was Luka. I wasn't even paying attention to stats for the most part because I was still watching at work. And before you know it, he's got, 28 and 10. It's like, oh, okay, just casual. Nice. Bohannon looked good. I thought, really none of them looked bad. A little bit of a slow start. And, I had buddies texting me left and right saying, oh my God, we suck. Another disappointing Iowa basketball team, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, everyone take a deep breath. We are 15 minutes into the season. This is going to be a good one.
That's ridiculous, too, Dill. Think about this. Bohannon and Wieskamp and Connor McCaffrey all combined for 18 points total, and we still scored 97 points. So think about that. The depth is unreal on this team. That's honestly, that's one thing that worries me is, man, are we too deep, this basketball team? But can't forget we got Luka Garza, Pat McCaffrey played well. You said Keegan Murray played well. We got some dudes that can play some basketball.
Oh, yeah. This is probably the deepest, best team that McCaffrey's had in his tenure at Iowa. And, yeah, I'm pumped.
Absolutely, guys. And Bo alluded to it. Final score, the number 5 ranked Hawkeye, Iowa Hawkeyes, won 97-67. So we won by 30. So we're 1-0, which is great. But as you guys probably know, we are here to talk about the football team of the Iowa Hawkeyes. And we're going to regale you with the last weekend's amazing win against the Penn State Nittany Lions. And it was a blowout game and of the final score 41-21. And guys, we're going to just jump right into exactly what happened. I think last week we were a little bit worried at this Penn State team just from games in the past. And that was something that I think that we touched on, but guys, 41-21 final score. We were in the driver's seat the whole game. Looked like we were up 24-7, I believe, at halftime, which was amazing. And then they started them out a little bit of 21 looks like. Or no, I was right, 24-7 at halftime. And then they started them out a little bit of a comeback in the third quarter, but we were able to rally the troops. So we scored all 10 points of the fourth quarter, including one 71-yard interception return by Davion Nixon for a touchdown, which was absolutely amazing to watch. But let's get into the game here, guys. What did you guys think?
I was going to say, Rob, did you catch him in the post game? Rob, did you catch Davy Nixon in the post-game interviews?
I did not. I have no idea.
Oh, man. I know you're a basketball guy, so I wanted to talk to you about this because they were like, so Davion, what was that move you made to juke out that quarterback? And he's like, oh, man, that was a Euro step. Oh, that was awesome. He took the football with one hand, any running back coach's nightmare, and, popped the Euro step on him and another 50 yards for a score. Oh, that was awesome. You got to love to see a big man TD. That was sick.
Dude, what made that win even bigger, too, is Penn State's coming off of 5 straight wins against Iowa. Finally, we get some freaking revenge, and we really step on their throat. And with Kirk Ferentz being from Pennsylvania, him being a Pennsylvania-Pittsburgh native, that was like a double whammy. Let's fucking go. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and another awesome part about him being a Pennsylvania native, that was Kirk Ferentz's 100th Big Ten win. Like, how about that? I know he's been at the helm for 22 years, I believe this is his 22nd year.
Yep.
And just an amazing accomplishment. And I don't think us Iowa fans are as appreciative as we should be 9 times out of 10 for, the, consistency and the success that has come with him being at the helm for as long as he has. So hats off to you, Kirk, the man that made the mullet cool.
Well, he must be listening to our pod, Dill, because what did they do last week best? They ran the damn ball, and they looked good doing it.
They sure did. I think offensive line up front looked good. You had a few injuries in there with Coy Cronk being out, and I thought that Cody Entz looked good. Tyler Linderbaum, he's a stud. We're going to be lucky if he comes back next year, guys. He's third-year sophomore this year. Possible Remington Award winner. He's playing out of his mind. I thought Alaric Jackson had a tough duty with that defensive end, and they had a pair of good defensive ends, but overall, in his run blocking, I thought he looked great too. And yeah, just really no complaints across the board when it comes to that O-line.
Well, and one thing too, we saw Kallenberger. We've been hyping him up big time. We saw him go out early, and Jack Plum came in, and he looked exceptional. And Jack Plum may even start this week against Nebraska, but honestly, we moved the ball just as well with him at that right tackle spot.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. And overall, and Kirk said it a little bit in this last press conference too, where he's got, 3 true freshman offensive linemen that could see time this week. I know he mentioned our boy that you're repping today, T. Ellsbury, Tyler Ellsbury being one of them that, Kirk wasn't 100% confident he'd be able to go to a full game necessarily, but feels like, he can hold his own in there with some of the older guys. Mason Richmond as well. And there was one more who I'm blanking on right now, but
I'm blanking.
So be on the lookout for them guys to get some, spot minutes as well.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, though, our run game looked good. Monty Pottebaum just blew up some dudes, made it look easy, and then Tyler Goodson did the rest.
Mullet, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Power of the mullet, really.
Yeah.
Is it a little white trash maybe, but it looks good.
Dude, it's blonde. It's a blonde mullet too. It looks sexy.
Blonde mullet. Yeah, that is badass.
Dude, also, how good was Mekhi Sargent last week though? Like he was due for a big game and he balled out.
He was, man, and he sure did. We can touch on his stats quick. 15 carries, 101 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And you tell a Penn State fan those stats, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a decent day for your number 1 running back." Yeah, no, that's our number 2 running back.
Yep.
Number 2. Yeah, he didn't even get the workload that Tyler Goodson got with 20 carries. So it's like, having 2 guys back there, with similar yet different skill sets, provides probably the best 1-2 punch that is in the Big Ten in regards to the running back position.
And I think I maybe alluded to this last week too, but Mekhi Sargent has really established himself as more of the dominant, hard downhill runner. We use him more towards goal line situations, and he's asserted himself as more of the dominant runner. But honestly, after watching the last 2 weeks, he's really had a few breakout runs that look really good. So really, really high on Mekhi Sargent after the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he looked absolutely incredible. He was able to shed tacklers as he ran. If I can even talk here, and he's just been really kind of impressive, and they've been kind of splitting the load there. Obviously, Tyler Goodson with 20 carries for 78 yards, but Mekhi Sargent this game. Obviously, it's 15 carries for 101 yards, 6.7 average, 2 touchdowns. His longest was a 28. So it's nice to kind of be able to save the work there between these two guys and just not let, to avoid injuries. But guys, I mean, this whole game, and we'd like to also welcome to the show, since this is Nebraska week, we want to welcome Blaine Hilgenkamp, our local Nebraska correspondent. So if you're watching us on YouTube, he is the fourth square here. So
what's up, guys?
And he is a square too, listeners.
100%.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good. I'm in my grandparents' basement here in Ewing, Nebraska. It was nice to see Nebraska win something for once today, convincingly. And of all sports, it was basketball. So I don't know. I'll take it. From here on out, I'll take it. A convincing Nebraska win in any sport.
Freddie's changed that program around already.
Hell yeah.
Well,
I mean, you guys firsthand know what Fred Hoiberg does on the court. So, I mean, I'm glad he's on our I'm glad he's on my team. So
you dealt with that rat bastard for many moons, as I would.
I guess as far as the game against Penn State goes, I mean, we didn't really show a lot. We were able to stop them a lot. I think one thing we need to touch on is how great the defense played. And I wanted to talk to, I guess, Dill a little bit just about that, because obviously this was a perfect example of a bend, don't break defense, but more just like, I don't even know if we even really bent.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, it was just wild. The one thing we worried about with a team like Penn State is, their 0-4 record. It was a little deceiving because that team had talent. They just couldn't put it all together. And so, typically they're going to have a lot of talent at the skill positions, which they definitely did, and we saw that, in the second half in that third quarter with Sean Clifford going 2 for 2 for 100 and whatever yards and 2 touchdowns, right? He had a couple bombs that, went out pretty well. So, but with the exception of those 2 plays, guys, this Hawkeye defense, it might have bent a little bit, but it sure didn't break a whole hell of a lot. Between Will Levis, who started the game, and Sean Clifford, those guys had 280 yards, a couple touchdowns, and threw 2 picks. And both those happened to be D-line, big man interceptions. So you love to see it. You love to see Kelvin Bell's boys out there, throwing their hands up, tipping passes and shit. I loved it. And then as far as stopping the run, good God, held him for 62 yards and a touchdown. I don't think we've done that all year. They couldn't run the ball to save their lives, and that includes quarterback rushes as well. So big right there. One of the keys to the game we talked about last week was, our defense continuing to cause turnovers, and once again did that with 4 turnovers and 5 sacks. And then, guys, my defensive player of the game, Mr. Nicholas Niemann, son of Coach Niemann, that's in charge of the state of Iowa recruiting for the Hawkeyes. He had 17 total tackles, with a few of those being tackles for loss as well. So unbelievable game. And you guys have heard me say it God knows how many times. When your leading tackler is your safety, there's an issue. And he's one of our linebackers. And, love to see that man ball out. And he's been balling out all year. And, he's going to end up in the NFL like his brother. So love to see.
You alluded to it too. We need to get tighter on the defense, which I think we have been in the last couple of weeks. But think about all the open field tackles that we've been just absolutely, breaking up and having. Like it was Chauncey Golston had a really nice, I think it was the first or second series, had a really nice stuff in the backfield. And then you talk about Nick Niemann, how many of those were passes to the running back out in the flats where he was one-on-one with the running back. He looked really good out in space and really proved why he should be playing every down.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, you can't say enough about all those guys. Another guy I was really impressed with, Zach Van Valkenburg, the opposite DN. When you got an all-conference DN on one side, naturally you're going to get a lot of attention, a lot of plays going your ways. And, Van Valkenburg, he stepped up to the challenge. And, God, he's another one. He killed it. I mean, there's just – I know I said it about the offense. I had 0 complaints. With the defense, I have 0 complaints as well. With the exception, I thought they got a little bit complacent in the third quarter, where it's like, we're up a little bit. We can give up a few plays. But I mean, besides that, these guys locked it on and turned it on when they needed to, and it showed in that final score.
Yeah, absolutely. And just some more, stats for you guys out there. I mean, this Penn State rushing attack, 35 times they rushed the ball for 62 yards. They averaged 1.8 yards a carry. And
that's nuts.
For a team, that's pretty crazy. So kudos to the Iowa defense. And that kind of leads us right into our next segment, which is what we like to call a little good vibe. Oh, you know what? I don't have.
Damn, I should have said something.
I didn't even think about that.
I should have grabbed. So we had these, Blaine, last episode we tested out these random sound effects, and it was pretty dope. But I should have queued those up. I don't have them with me. So, anyways, we had good vibes and bad vibes, and so I'll go ahead and toss it over to Bo. What did you think as far as this game against Penn State, this blowout win against this 0-4 now 0-5 Penn State team? What are some good vibes, bad vibes?
For the first time in their program's history.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's nuts. Well, I'll start out with good vibes. I trashed them the last 3 or 4 weeks, but I have to give my good vibes out to the DBs and safeties, the secondary essentially. Other than the 2 big chunk plays that they gave up in the third and fourth quarter that Clifford threw, honestly, the DBs played really well, and they did a pretty good job of tackling too, especially out in the open field. So for me, being a little worried about them giving up the deep ball, I thought they played very exceptional this week, and I think they're improving every week. So that's going to be my good vibe. My bad vibe, this is going to be coming a little out of left field, but Keith Duncan is my bad vibe. The last 2 games, he's missed 3 field goals, which honestly, other than the 50-yarder they attempted last week, what?
He's not missing Friday. He doesn't miss against Nebraska.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I'm hoping he's an avid listener to the show, so I'm hoping that he goes however many. But anyway, I think he needs to kick it up a notch. He was 29 of 34 last year. Right now, he's 6 of 9, nice, but could be, in my opinion, at least 7 or 8 of 9 right now. So that's going to be my bad vibe. Dylan, I'll pass it to you.
Man, and I'm going to have to defend my boy Keith Duncan here a little bit because I think those 3 field goal misses, all without a doubt wind-aided. We haven't caught a break when it comes to playing with the wind here these last couple of weeks. So, and I know you said a couple of those misses were from 45 plus. So, I'm going to give him those. I think he's earned that. So, and just, that poor bastard, our offense has been putting the ball in the end zone so much. All he's having to do is kick extra points. So.
Hey, I'm completely fine with that, to be honest with you. Completely fine with that.
Same. And that's what the players were saying too, in their weekly press conference interviews. They're like, yeah, we love Keith. He's our dude, but yeah, keep his ass on the sideline.
But to be honest though, I'm curious to hear what you guys' bad vibes are, because that was the only one that I could think of.
Well, I better get to it then, shouldn't I? Well, I'm going to start off on a positive note. My good vibe is Mr. Hawkeyes Sargent. In the world of, athletes not getting their way and transferring immediately and calling coaches racist and wanting $20 million, Hawkeyes Sargent loses his job last year to Tyler Goodson. And what does that man do? He could have transferred elsewhere, could have grad transferred out. No, the man graduated and chose to stick it out at the University of Iowa, and the dude straight balled out last week. And I think that game, hands down, put him on NFL radars as well. He went from being a guy who probably didn't have a chance to, after that game, now he's got some solid tape out there where, he might be able to sneak in as possibly a 7th late round pick, or, ended up on a practice squad and getting his chance that way too. So, the young man balled out, absolutely earned it. Nothing but love there. God, I was fired up to see him ball out the way he did. My bad vibe is going to be a little bit twofold. So we talked about it early on in the season, but we talked about penalties. And the last couple of games, we've been doing a little bit better there. But for as much of a blowout as this game was, I felt like it could have been a lot worse because we ended up getting ourselves in situations where we had, potentially a bad holding call, on a big play and that kind of thing that knocks you out of, knocks you back into 2nd and 20, 3rd and 20, and then, you're pretty much punting the ball and calling it a drive. So I think that's got to be improved. And then my other bad vibe, and it's kind of pissed me off these last couple of weeks, and maybe it's because Kirk Ferentz isn't used to, boat racing teams the way he has been, but him being classy and letting off the gas, like especially like versus a team like Penn State, who, they've had our number for a while. And if Hayden Fry was still around, God rest his soul, he would have loved to run up the score on them boys. I think we would have seen like a 63-14, 63-20 type of score if he was still at the helm. So that'd be my one bad vibe is just, you see these guys letting off the gas, and you almost saw it versus Penn State in that third quarter when they had 2 quick touchdowns, and it's like, oh shit, they're within 2 scores now, like they're coming back. And so luckily Davion Nixon shut their mouths there and had that big long interception return to make it look a little bit better. But Kirk said it himself, that game was a lot closer than the score really indicated. So
yeah, no, absolutely, Dylan. I mean, I was wondering what your bad vibe was going to be because, looking through the box score and things, it was hard to find. I will go ahead and give you what my bad vibe is, and I hate to grind this guy's gears because that I'm such a fan of quarterbacks, but Spencer Petras, like I would have he's just young, you know what I mean? But he had 2 fumbles this game, and that's something that when we start playing against some better competition towards the end of the season, which I'm hoping that's kind of what this is leading to. You can't fumble the ball like that. He turned the ball over. He recovered one of the fumbles. He turned the ball over to the other team the other time. But if someone's going to fumble, I would hate for it to be the quarterback. The person who initiates the offense. I thought he played a decent game. He was more. I thought this game he was more of a game manager, and I agree with that strategy as far as like having us run the damn ball and then take our chances and have us kind of set up the pass, which seemed to be working this game, but it seemed almost everything was working this game.
mm-hmm.
So just a little bit worried about his ability to take care of the ball there. So he's young. I'm going to give it to him, but that's really kind of what I would say as far as bad vibes go. Good vibes. I love the way our defense is playing. Our defense is flying around. We're creating turnovers. Davion Nixon has tipped a pass in almost every game this season. I'm trying to think of a game that he hasn't tipped a pass, but he seems to get his hands up a lot. And I think he's just was rewarded this game by being able to pick one off and then Euro step his way to a touchdown. But hey, you can't, really fault us this game. As far as the defense goes, everything looked amazing. Seth Benson really played well as well. And I'm pretty impressed with the way that he's been playing lately. It seems to be like sort of the guy to take the torch, I guess, away from our
Campbell.
Yeah. Well, I guess who was it that went? No, I'm thinking Geno Stone, but I know they don't play the same position. But
talking about linebackers
like Barrington Wade.
Yeah.
Christian Welch was one that graduated last year, passed the torch.
Yeah, but Geno Stone went to the NFL. He kind of reminds me more of Geno Stone than he does Christian Welch.
Okay.
But I know he's playing a different position, but still, he seems to have his nose for the ball. So I'm excited for him, and I'm excited for this defense, and that's what gives me good vibes.
Hell yeah.
So with that, it's time to get to the main event. We want to talk about. Oh no, wait! We got to talk about the mailbag. So let's dig into the mailbag. Let's go. If we got some great mailbag questions, we'd love to kind of answer them. This is one of our favorite sections or segments of our show here, is just being able to answer questions from users and different people. So Bo, you think you got a question for us?
Yeah, dude, I got a really weird one. And Blaine, you can chirp in on this one too. But Rachel from New Sharon asked us a little bit about the sidelines for all college teams. Do you think that no dance team or no cheerleaders on the sideline is a big hit for Iowa football and all college football around?
Like a negative?
Yeah, is it a negative not having them there, or is it a positive not having them there? Or is there any difference?
If I was at the game, I think it's safe to say that I would say that's a negative because that's always nice. Like during the TV timeouts, you have the dance team come out there and, do their thing, do a little hip hop, pop lock and drop it, So I'd say if I was at the games, it'd be a negative, but honestly, I haven't even really thought about it, that I have to sit my ass on the couch and watch these games. So, yeah, sorry, Rachel, but I guess I'm just a little bit indifferent in that one. And, I suppose Kirk probably likes it because it's not distracting his men. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I have no comment.
I mean, go ahead, Rob.
Dude, you saw me like. Sorry. Yeah, no, I think it's a negative.
I don't know.
It's a negative.
Yeah. I mean, it got Notre Dame all fired up. Got all of the fans onto the field. Got them all they were partying on the field after beating number 1 Clemson. I mean, I guess what is it? The Big Ten and Pac-12 are the only ones that probably don't have cheerleaders or dancers.
Yep.
Or whatever, dance team members. Because I'm pretty sure all the other, the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC, I'm pretty sure they have all of that going on.
It's business as usual for them, dude. They don't give a shit about COVID.
I'm pretty sure it is. So teams like that aren't. Yeah, the all what was it? 21,000 Notre Dame fans were on that field there.
Way more than that.
At once.
21,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you consider that a super spreader event?
I mean, wouldn't you have to?
If COVID was real, I would.
That's a different topic.
Just kidding, listeners. I've had COVID. I know it's real, but it's not that bad.
At least they were wearing their masks. And I saw a few of them trying to be 6 feet apart from the other people that were on the field. So at least they were attempting.
Okay. This is just I think years from now, we're going to look back on this and this is going to be completely ridiculous. But could you imagine storming a field or a court and trying to socially distance? What you're doing is the exact opposite of social distance. Hey, keep your distance, but I'm really excited that we won.
What Nebraska's defense does, social distance.
Ouch.
All right.
Other
questions from the mailbag?
Yeah, we had one more here from Noah from Monroe. I don't know if we touched on this one before, but he said, what is Tyler Goodson's glass ceiling? And what he means by that is there anybody that he reminds you of, and how much potential does he have for the rest of his time in Iowa?
I'm going to start off with this one, fellas, and this is probably, I don't want to put too much expectations on the young man necessarily, but I mean, it's tough not to think of him when you see him run the ball. You think of Freddie Russell. Freddie Russell from those, ridiculously good Iowa teams from the early 2000s, that, came up just short versus Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. And by just short, I mean, they got boat raced in the Orange Bowl after.
Wasn't that Carson Palmer?
That was Carson Palmer. Who'd I say? Matt Leinart?
Yeah,
that was Carson Palmer and those guys. Yeah, my bad. Not Reggie Bush. But no, that's who I think of. I think of a young Freddie Russell, and I think he's a little bit taller than Fred, so I think his ceiling could even potentially be a little bit higher. So that's who he reminds me of. What do you guys think?
I like that. I think he's like a bigger bodied Akram Wadley to me. I think he's pretty athletic and he's pretty quick, but he can hit the hole, I think, a lot harder than Wadley. Sorry to say it, Dill. I know it burns you, especially a lot of Iowa fans listening, but I think he reminds you a lot of Akram Wadley.
Damn.
Yeah, except for he's a decent human being. So
that used to be a compliment.
Right.
You said as a player, it was a comparison as a player. I'd agree with that.
Yep.
Literally was going to say maybe a bigger bodied Akram Wadley. Literally was going to say that. He sees lane gaps and the gap isn't filled or it's partially filled. He hits that and he's so good at filling that. It's cool to watch. I love good running backs, and Tyler Goodson is one of those. He's gonna have a great day Friday, guys. Don't worry.
We appreciate hearing that from a Nebraska fan too.
And speaking of, guys, I got some questions that so I follow and this is a shout out because I'm not gonna just steal it without shouting them out. But hey, shout out to The Athletic. So I subscribe to The Athletic. I am able to watch and listen to, subscribe to, or follow, I guess, a lot of the articles that, go with the Iowa Hawkeyes and things like that. And one thing they do weekly is they do these little question and answers. And so I'm going to steal a couple of questions from that session with Scott Docterman and Mitch Sherman, and just kind of maybe throw it to you guys and see what your thoughts are. And I think it will lead nicely. And Dill, I think you're about to crack another beer.
Yeah, I got a little thirsty.
Yeah, why don't you crack another? I'm about to crack another one too. If you guys, I don't know if you're with me here, but at least me and Dill seem to be on pace.
I cracked beer a little ago.
Got a kid, Blaine. How
I
about
think
yourself?
Blaine's ahead of us a little bit, maybe.
Looks like both slacking.
Drinking rum all day.
I
Found a bottle of Bacardi Select from like the 90s. It was like hidden in my grandpa's basement. Drinking that, so
Okay, so Bacardi
rum
Select,
can't go bad, right?
is that? Oh no. I think it gets better, right? Wait, but is it dark or is it the clear rum? We need to know.
It's dark.
Damn,
Yum.
that actually looks decent.
So good.
Man, that's
So
good.
good. Pour it on ice. That's all you need.
Makes sense that our Nebraska correspondent is a rum guy.
I'm kidding. I put Dr. Pepper in it. But
I'm just kidding. Okay,
Trying to
so
be a hard ass.
but let me hit you with these questions. These kind of are going to lead nicely into our Nebraska coverage this week. Okay, so here's a question from Caden L. Nebraska always seems to move the ball with ease for the first drive or two, then absolutely falls apart the rest of the game. What's your sense, being close to the program, as the cause of that? Scheme, personnel? It's tough to see a glimpse of high-powered offense get derailed so quickly every game.
I'd like to hear Blaine's thoughts on that one.
I really don't. You can go back to every game that Frost has coached at Nebraska, and I can't recall, unless there has been a penalty or a turnover, they score on every possession. If it's a clean drive, they score on the first possession of every game. Like against Ohio State this year, it was like, what was it, like 5 plays, touchdown. Northwestern, they're down to like the 20, and then it was back-to-back holdings, and that ruined their drive. Penn State, they drove right down the field. Against Illinois, first play was a very obvious incomplete pass. They just didn't review. They just didn't. First play of the game, and then Illinois scores, but then Nebraska gets the ball back and then puts together like a 12 or 11 play. So they've done it in multiple different ways. But then, I don't know, it just falls off. They fall in love with the QB run game. That's this year. They just totally go away from running backs, and they just give the ball to their 160-pound Wan'Dale Robinson. I don't know. I don't know. The inconsistencies are just beyond me or over my head. I don't know if it's a coach confidence thing. I don't know if it's something that Frost just needs to let go and just be head coach and stop calling plays. I don't know. I'm just confused as anybody. So
Do you think it has to do with player confidence too? Do you think that the players like, hey, we're going to go out, we're going to bust ass this first drive, and then after that's like, fuck, here we go again, kind of thing?
I mean, player confidence should be led by coach confidence. So if there's any sense in the coach not having confidence in certain plays or certain drives or certain game plans they put together, what do you expect the players to do? So
That's a good answer.
That's a great answer, and I 1,000% agree with that. And that's coming from Blaine Hilgenkamp, who has coaching experience. I mean, like, you have to have confidence as a coach. Like, you're like, if your team like doesn't respect you or doesn't, I don't know, like if you don't feel valid in your like assertions as a coach, or I guess your team doesn't like buy in, I guess, for lack of a better term. I mean, like, they're not going to do it.
Buy-in is a good word, yeah.
I was thinking to myself too, like, okay, so obviously the first usually, and we learned this from our friend Kirby, former quarterback for the Upper Iowa Peacocks. But he said, obviously like the first drive or so, maybe 2, depending on the program, I guess, are scripted. So do you think that it's a problem?
They're scripted.
Yeah. Do you think that plays an issue, like with the Scott Frost, the Nebraska team? Like, they're great at like planning out their plays ahead of time, but then when it gets like maybe creativity plays a factor.
I mean, that's another thing too. I mean, you think of and I'm going like big picture here. Like you think of the load that Scott Frost is trying to take on at a Big Ten school, calling plays and being head coach. Now I know Ryan Day does it. But Ryan Day had 1 or 2 years to be the offensive coordinator before becoming the head coach at Ohio State. So he didn't have to change schools. Scott Frost went from Central Florida as head coach and calling plays. Not a very difficult, yes, but it's a lot different doing it in the Big Ten. But then like he was offensive coordinator at Oregon calling plays, but he wasn't head coach. So his only duty was to script game plan for the offense. And he was, very evidence wise will tell you like how successful they were on offense, Oregon. Like it's not hidden. You don't have to look that hard to find the success there. I don't know. Cause like right now, watching as inconsistent as this team is all over the place, I don't think it's that big of an X and O things. And it's more of a confidence, leadership, consistency, that kind of thing where they need like more of a head coach that's going to lead instead of a head coach that's going to grab a clipboard and show them a play that works.
Interesting.
So, granted, he's probably damn good at scripting an opening drive because it shows that he is. But I don't know if he gets too caught up and he has too many duties that he can't. I don't know. It's frustrating to watch as a Husker fan.
Sure.
Because I don't know. It's like they show these glimmers of hope, especially early in the game. It's like, oh, we're up 7-0. We're fine. Oh, we're back. Like that kind of crap, and just never fails that it's that second quarter or third quarter slump. But
right.
I don't know.
Now tell me, Blaine. So with Scott Frost, do you think it could be potentially a confidence thing for him? Because what I always go back to, in regards to Scott Frost's confidence is, if you remember way back to his early playing days, just after transferring from Stanford, I think it's pretty well known that when Lawrence Phillips broke into his apartment that, Scott Frost hid in the closet as Lawrence Phillips dragged his girl out of the apartment and down 3 flights of stairs before smashing her head into a mailbox. So do you think it's just, a confidence thing?
That's a common story I hear. That's a common story I hear from a lot of Iowa Hawkeye fans that they like to tell. But Lawrence, I don't know.
Rest in peace, yeah. Lawrence Phillips. But
Lawrence Phillips is dead. So thanks for talking ill about somebody that is dead, Dylan, and had a lot of issues with his life. But that's pretty cool.
And what for the record, what he did was not funny. It's just how that story gets brought up, 20 whatever years later when Scott Frost takes over the job, and then you hear it, and oh yeah, Scott Frost hid in the closet as Lawrence Taylor was beating up his girl, or Lawrence Phillips was beating up his girlfriend. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, I do know that, like when Scott Frost transferred from Stanford back to Nebraska, he was the scout team quarterback for that year because he had to sit out. Mm-hmm. And like it's not hard to find any quotes or anything from first team defenders on Nebraska's defense side. Like they were not nice to Scott, at all. Like beating him up in the locker room and stuff like that.
In
1996.
When those guys went and traveled, Scott would go over to their girlfriend's place and do the deed, apparently.
Obviously. Yes, you're correct, Dale. That's probably his issue.
So then confidence isn't an issue then. I'm confused. I don't know.
Well, let's move on.
If we use Dylan's evidence, I don't understand.
Listeners, I apologize. That's horrible. I'm sorry.
No. You're good. Hey, let me just go ahead and bounce a couple more questions off us. Just some quick hitters here. Here's a question from Jake C. Should Frost be considering pulling McCaffrey if he's struggling, or just starting Martinez outright? This is obviously with the quarterback situation in Nebraska.
Blaine?
I don't think Luke should have ever started.
Okay.
I don't think he should have.
Yeah, it's too early for him.
That's just my personal opinion. It's my personal opinion. Luke was doing so many other reps at slot, at wideout, running back. Like, they had him doing so many other reps, and they're just like, oh, by the way, you're going to be the starting quarterback this week. It's like, is he really ready? And then somehow we beat Penn State. Like, we made just enough plays, just at the right amount of time. Like, and he ended up being 1-0 as a starter. But there's 4 times on TV against Illinois, we had receivers running downfield wide open, and he just has the ball, and he looks and he tucks it and runs for 2 or 3 yards. I mean, fabulous athlete, fantastic athlete, great football player. I think Adrian's still the best quarterback we have. So
I want to combat that a little bit, Blaine, because I'm looking at it from a passing perspective. I think that Adrian's a great runner, and so is Luke too. But Adrian's passing completion has been like ass throughout the first 3 or 4 games. Like, he did not look good at all. And so, in my opinion, the way I see it anyway, is that I'm thinking that they benched Martinez to say, hey man, like, this isn't your job. This isn't your job to keep. Like, you are replaceable. So I almost think that Frost is just kind of telling him, hey, this is like a nip in the ass to say, hey, you need to wake the fuck up, or else we're going to start this other guy and you're going to be a nobody.
And I hope that wakes Adrian up. I don't know if we'll see an improvement starting Friday, but hopefully you start to see a little bit more confidence. The more, like, how he would stand in the pocket and just throw missiles like his freshman year. Like, that, hopefully that kind of, I don't want to call it swagger, because Adrian really doesn't really have that much swagger. It's just more of a personal belief of confidence. Like, he doesn't really give up on himself. Whereas you could see last year, like, he would make one mistake and then it's like, oh shit, kind of look. Maybe this was the wake up call you needed. So
I agree. And honestly,
he came in.
Go ahead.
I mean, he came in for like the last drive against Illinois, and they marched right down the field, scored a touchdown. I know that doesn't matter because it's in garbage time, but like, I don't know. He delivered a couple good passes on that drive, get his confidence back before he plays against Iowa. I fully expect Adrian Martinez to be starting on Friday.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
I would too.
I 100% do, yeah.
I think so too, Blaine.
Well, and I know he's been a pain in Iowa's ass for the last couple of years too. So I guess just making the plays, and specifically making the plays with the speed.
If you look against Adrian versus Big Ten West teams, he does quite well. And then you look at Adrian versus Big Ten East teams, and it's god awful. It's like embarrassing. But
All right. Well, one more question.
There are a lot.
Oh, go for it.
Go ahead. Sorry. I'm just going to keep saying this on the show because more Husker fans need to hear this than anything. There are more issues on Nebraska's team than who starts at quarterback.
Well,
they need to get that into their head.
You get the triple
Finding the quarterback isn't going to just go, all right, there we go. We're 7 wins in a row because we found our right quarterback. You kidding me? Come on.
All right. Well,
there's a lot more issues with quarterback.
All right.
Go ahead.
Blaine,
Sorry. I had to get that off the chest.
No, it's good. And I think this last question that we're going to get to before we get to this game preview, I think you'll sympathize with this. So Griffin G, and I think this guy is a Husker fan, because he writes, what time do I need to start drinking in order to black out before it's a blowout? Assume beer, no shots, and normal Midwestern tolerance.
6 a.m.
Normal Midwestern tolerance. Yeah, I'd say the night before.
Sleep
Iowa State and Texas will be playing, so you could just change the channel.
Damn.
I expect that to be a quite competitive game. So,
I mean, it depends on how fast you drink. If you power hour, I'd say 10 a.m.
Oh yeah, games at noon, power hour, back to back from 10 to noon.
Wait,
tequila shots
at noon? I was thinking it was 11.
Tequila shots every 10.
Oh, you can black
Still,
out.
me,
pretty
you have
quick.
done that.
Oh yeah, that was rough.
So that's gonna wrap up our mailbag. Appreciate all the questions, everybody that sends in. Obviously, we're going to keep airing these questions. We love to be able to answer them. So let me go ahead and send it over to Bo. We obviously have a game, a Thanksgiving tradition, a Black Friday tradition against our rivals from Nebraska. Bo, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Rob. So I like how you said the tradition rival, right? So the Big Ten wasn't going to schedule it this year until a Saturday. And the one thing the Big Ten did right was get this Nebraska-Iowa game back on Black Friday. So one thing we can do to shout out the Big Ten, that's what it is. So games in Iowa City, Iowa, for all you fans watching out there, it's going to be at noon. It's on Fox. So hopefully you guys have your Fox channels ready to rock and roll. 43 degrees, should be pretty low winds, 8 mile an hour. So hopefully Keith Duncan can get it through the uprights this week. And then no rain.
He's gonna do it 3 years in a row. Shit me.
Yeah. So should be a pretty good game. Right now, the betting odds started out, Iowa was a 14-point favorite. Now they're only at 13.5. The over-under's at 53. And then right before we get to our predictions, I can say that again, but supposing to be a pretty high-scoring game, which the last couple of years it has been for the most part. So should be a pretty solid overall game in terms of both.
Would you see the over-under at 53.5 or something like that?
Yep.
53.
Yep.
Okay.
Which they predicted the Iowa Minnesota game to be 58. Just for reference.
Okay.
And that was under hard. That was
35-7.
Yeah, under hard because what's their nuts didn't score.
Yeah, for real.
But
You can
Minnesota didn't
score 2, Dale, to cover the over.
What's up?
No, it's funny. I was like, Iowa can score 2 to cover the over. It's not just Minnesota.
Yep.
Right. I mean, they scored 35 points. Like shit, that's typically enough to hit the over in any football game.
You would think that would be enough
No.
to go over 58 in a game. True.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't. So
Hey, we held up our end of the
That's
bargain.
one of my. Yeah, that's one of my most correct picks this year. Is I was like, Minnesota is going to be a trash can. They're going to be bad.
Dude,
I
They're
called
only
that
getting
early.
worse, right,
I
Bo?
called that so early.
speaking of, Bo and I just got a text here a little bit ago. Rashad Bateman just opted out for the rest of the season. Wow.
that's
Yeah.
big news.
He's going to focus on the NFL. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Mid-season quitting on your team. That probably looks good to the NFL scouts, I'm sure. But nonetheless,
He was committed, though. He was really committed to Minnesota's success.
Yeah, he was rowing the boat.
He's really devoted to his coach, BJ Fleck. The guy really gets those guys motivated and committed.
Yeah, he's a turd.
Sorry, I really don't. I really don't like PJ Fleck. And there's no way they should have beaten Purdue.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's one of a few different calls, because obviously you're alluding to that referee call. There's a few different calls that have been super questionable in Minnesota. Even when we played Minnesota, there was like a obviously dropped pass that they didn't like.
They didn't even review it, did they?
No, initially no, and we challenged it, and then the announcers and stuff were like, oh, okay, come on, I want to go get something to eat, blah blah blah. Like, you don't need to be challenging this.
Yeah, that was
Up 35-0. You don't need to challenge that. When it's like, well, we talked about this a couple podcasts ago, but that's that's an incomplete pass. So,
yeah. Right.
But yeah, no, I'm surprised about that. There's another pass that David Bell caught, not to just talk about Purdue, Minnesota, but there's another pass that David Bell caught that they said his feet were out of bounds, where he caught it off the back of or it was batted off of a defender and he caught it and fell down. And it looked like his body was in, but they said his feet was out, which I don't know, man. There's been a few different plays this year where I'm just I have no idea what the refs are doing. And I don't know, maybe that's just a COVID thing.
Right.
probably
Damn
not.
refs don't know
We'll ask,
nothing.
we'll ask Dill, because Dill's a high school football ref.
Yeah.
Does COVID
Yeah,
affect
well-
your ability to call plays?
Does alcohol? Yeah, absolutely.
Does it make you like fuzzy, a little blurry when you're
No, and you know what's funny, Rob? The play you were talking about, I had never heard of this rule, but apparently that defender had both feet out of bounds, and before David Bell had possession of it, he had hit it. So he had made contact with the ball with his feet out of bounds. So they determined because of that ball was an incomplete pass because it was essentially a dead ball when a defender is out of bounds and hits it.
That's the right call, isn't it?
Oh,
Technically, it is the right call, yes.
Yeah.
But
teach all your corners, run out of bounds and touch the ball then.
Exactly.
Yeah. Only if only it's that simple, But anyways, guys, we should probably get on back on track here a little bit.
Sorry, that's my fault.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But a little Nebraska preview here. So, in Blaine, I just kind of want to get your overall thoughts on the teams, but just so the listeners know. So right now, Nebraska is 1-3. Their one win versus Penn State, they won that ball game 30-23, and they've lost to Ohio State 17-52, Northwestern 13-21, and then Illinois 41-23. Go ahead, Brian.
The outlook before the Illinois game was promising. You had two losses to now the two best teams in the Big Ten. I think Ohio State's 4th and Northwestern's 8th now.
Right.
And you beat the team you were supposed to beat in Penn State. And then you're favored by 16.5 points at home to the only coach in the Big Ten that Scott had multiple wins against. And not only did they lose, they just get embarrassed at home. There's like no aspect of the game where you can grab and go like, oh, we played well there. Like Northwestern, you could at least say like, okay, we played pretty bad on offense, turned the ball over a lot, but the defense was really damn good. Or like against Ohio State, okay, we rushed for 270 yards against Ohio State's defense. There's something. Like there's nothing in Illinois' game where you even look at it and you're like, oh, that was promising. Just across the board, just an overall embarrassment. It's just a really tough game to watch and accept that your team is literally doing this right now in front of you, and it's hard to believe. But at the same time, maybe it was something that not only Husker fans needed, but the coaching staff and the players need to be brought down to earth a little bit. Because, I don't know. It's just I'm tired of the inconsistency of play where you can show up one quarter and compete, and then the next quarter you look like you've never put together a drive or never had a third and short on defense before, and you don't know how to line up. Or after a kickoff, you line up on offense with 12 guys. Like, how do you like stuff like that? So, and then you come into a game with a team that loves to absolutely loves kicking your teeth in. Like, be honest, guys. Like, what team do you love beating the absolute crap out of the most?
If it's not Nebraska, it's Minnesota, but Nebraska for sure.
But it's also a team like I was always consistent in their game plan. And I'll quote Alaric Jackson. He was asked about the Nebraska defense, and he's just like, well, they got a couple new players, but it's the same scheme. They always run. He goes, a couple new players, but we're just going to run the ball right at them. Simple as that. That's almost, I tried word for word, and I'll pull it up and if I need to.
That is about
that kind of confidence. But that kind of confidence kind of shows you that, like, that's that Kirk Ferentz confidence that he instills in his players.
All right, quick
and
pause,
his
Blaine.
players embody it.
So here's
What?
that quote. I found it.
Okay, yeah.
So Iowa offensive tackle Eric Jackson on facing Nebraska's defense. And I quote, "They have some new guys for the most part. Same scheme. Nothing we'd change, honestly. It just depends on us winning up front. There's no secret. We're just going to run the ball. It's as simple as that."
Yeah.
So on that note, I thought that they were going to do the same exact thing against Penn State, but you guys remember the first 2 or 3 drives that we had? They were pretty pass heavy. Honestly, I could see the Hawks coming out and throwing quite a few play action passes and just trying to get a couple completions, get Petrus, get his legs underneath him, and then just heavy run. I don't know. You guys see anything different?
That's what they did versus Penn State too, just like you said. And I loved it for the most part. I thought that entire first half that Spencer Petrus, did a phenomenal job. He wasn't asked to do too much. I think he overthrew somebody on one deep ball,
Smith-Marset.
Yeah, by a foot. And it's like, that's not on either one of those guys. That's just a simple timing fix right there. Like if you're going to miss somebody, you're going to miss deep. That's the way to do it. So that didn't bother me at all, despite me harping on it just now. But no, overall, I think, we've been saying it all season long with a young quarterback like this. You give him those small, quick hitter passes like that, and he starts getting his confidence up, then, yeah, it's just awesome.
Well, and then knowing Alaric Jackson's saying that, they have that confidence that they're going to probably get 5-6 yards to carry. Why not put more weight on your quarterback's shoulders, knowing that you can fall back on a run game that's, going to be able to be there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. Sorry, I just want to say I just 100% agree with that strategy. It's just to try to get him involved early a little bit to have him settle down. So hopefully he feels like a little bit more control. Obviously, I feel like we are abandoning him a little bit at this point in the season, especially the last 3 games. Excuse me, that being Spencer Petrus. And as far as his ability to lead us in a passing attack against the team, I feel like we're more utilizing him as a game manager role. And I feel like maybe we sort of settled into that area as far as just testing out what worked and what didn't when we lost against Purdue and Northwestern. But I mean, I'm excited. I think that he has potential to throw the ball really well, but I feel like
it's not this game.
Yeah, and don't try to fix what's not broken. Our running game is just working.
Exactly.
But sorry, Blaine, go ahead.
So and to get to the expectation part, I would not be surprised at all if Nebraska gets the opening kick and drives the ball right down the field against Iowa and scores the first touchdown. That shouldn't be, if that happens, it shouldn't be surprising. But also what I expect is the first sign of any sort of adversity. It's just so difficult for Nebraska to come back with anything positive. And if I was able to step on Nebraska's throat early, for example, Nebraska goes down and scores, then Iowa gets the ball, they go down and score, and then Nebraska goes 3 and out. Right? Right away, their second position, they go 3 and out. I don't know if Nebraska is in the game. It's tied 7-7, but you can see it in the players. It's oh, we didn't score. It's it's just that. And to the fact that Nebraska has just been awful in the second half. Before the touchdown that Adrian threw in the fourth quarter against Illinois, Nebraska had scored, I'd have to go back and look, but it was something like 6 points all year in the second half.
But I still think that it's a rivalry game, though. I think that Frost is going to get him up for this game. I don't think it's going to be.
He might.
I think that. So what I read this week.
I hope you're right, Paul.
I think that their practices have been a lot harder this week. I'm a Hawkeye homer. Don't get me wrong, but I really think that Nebraska's going to play well this week.
I hope you're right.
And they typically do gear up for this game.
For sure. This is big.
But the one thing that I'm always reminded of is you think of years like 2016 and 2017 where, neither Iowa nor Nebraska was, cream of the crop of the Big Ten necessarily. And, it's kind of like what Blaine said where, they keep it close early, in the first quarter. And then, I'm thinking of the game in Lincoln, for example. I can't tell you what the final score. I wanted to say it was 40-10, but it was 10-10 going into half, and then the second, third quarter come around, and and Iowa
38-14. It was 14-14 at halftime, and then Iowa was just second half.
Right. Yep. And then the other one I think that might have been the home game. I was thinking of the next year that was 40-10. Does that sound right? But regardless, I remember
40-10 in Iowa. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're
in my
100% right. Yeah.
You know, because like you said, Bo, it's a rivalry game. They're up to play. I think they're fired up. You know, and they're there early, but at least history shows Nebraska has been that team that, you know, once you get a 2-touchdown lead on them, they kind of fold, and then that's when, you know, the horses come out, so to speak. So I don't know. And then
I will
last couple of years because
my one rebuttal. Yeah, and my one thing to that is I will say, since Scott has been here, the one game where he's been consistent and coming back is against Iowa.
Right.
Both years he's been down by two touchdowns, and he's been at least able to tie the game both years. Keith Dunking securing the win. But you are right about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's competitive early, and then Iowa makes the right amount of plays throughout like the second and third quarter. I think like the first year was like 28-13.
Right.
Nebraska came back and tied it. Last year was like 24-10. Nebraska was able to come back and tie it. Maybe Scott gets up for that. Maybe this is a Shenander thing. Maybe it's like Shenander's like I'm playing against my former team, so like I don't know. Maybe the focus is too much on Frost. We shouldn't focus on Shenander because he's an Iowa guy. So I don't know.
You can keep him.
But I will say, and then my expectation for the defense is that Nebraska is going to try to blitz all sorts of different things, mix coverages, be very gimmicky on defense. So the cuter Iowa gets on offense, the better it's going to be for Nebraska.
Yep, I agree.
If Iowa just is simple, it's like mano a mano, we're going to block you. We're going to run it right down your throat. It's going to be very hard for Nebraska to stop them. Nebraska's linebackers are not very good. Their defensive line is good, but Iowa's offensive line is way better.
And then Blaine,
we
were talking about this before the game. Is Colin Miller going to be out Friday or tomorrow?
He's done for the year. He had a spinal contusion, and they're going to keep him out for the rest of the year. So Colin Miller will travel with the team, so he'll be in Iowa City with the team, but he will not play.
Gotcha.
So that's just starting one of your starting inside linebackers and defensive captain that will not play for Nebraska. So they'll be even more gimmicky with their sets and their package. Like they're going to be throwing all sorts of different stuff at Brian Ferentz. So
I will say,
if Brian Ferentz tries to be all cute, might see another pick six this year. Who knows?
Well, I mean, that being said, I wouldn't put it past Brian Ferentz, and I don't fully trust him with the ability to call plays. And I'm a little bit scared about that, to be honest, especially in a rivalry game. I feel like all bets are off. Just because we played good the last 3 games, I don't think that necessarily we're going to play super good. And in fact, we've got a history, a reputation, a little bit of just like playing down to our opponents and like just not playing as good against, like we've lost in the Northwestern is very good this year, but we lost Purdue. And I even said after we lost Purdue, like I was like, Purdue's going to go around and be 500 and lose to like some random ass teams. And we lost to them. And that's going to be like a detriment. But I'm saying, like, if Nebraska is able to contain the run against Iowa, I am going to be very scared about how we're going to react to that, because that means you're going to have to force our quarterback to throw the ball, which I don't think that's what is in the best interest for our football team. Even though we have a great receiving core,
Nebraska's best part. Yeah,
I just don't think
Nebraska's best part of defense is their secondary.
Yeah,
they have 2 very good safeties. They have 2 very good corners. But their linebackers aren't good, and their defensive line is not. I mean, they're okay, but they're not. Iowa's offensive line is so much better than them. So, like, straying away from running the ball would be so confusing to me.
Well, think about this. What happens if Nebraska stacks the box? I mean, if they're going to stack the box, you got to put the ball in Petrus's hand. You got to make him make a play. So I think it'd be best bet for Nebraska to put it on Petrus to try and beat Nebraska.
Okay, and just for discussion's sake here, guys, I went ahead and did the math in my preparation for today's podcast. And so far this season, Nebraska has not been doing a very good job at stopping the run. And specifically, they're allowing 223 yards per game rushing. So go on.
Correct.
So that being said, what's the over/under for Iowa rushing yards against Nebraska?
230.
230?
Like the average, 230. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You go 230.
I'm going north of that. I'm saying
Same.
over on that.
I'll take the over
Over
on that.
230. Has
No.
Iowa gone over 300 yards rushing this year in a game?
Nope.
No.
I'll look back, but
They could have around or against Michigan State, but I don't believe they did.
No,
Yeah,
they didn't.
They did.
No, because they scored so many times because of special teams. Special teams set them up really well. I don't think they had any long,
That's
sustainable
true.
drives. And honestly, that's been the story of the whole year too. Their special teams have really been putting us in really good position.
speaking of that, I kind of want to maybe toss it down to Dill since we kind of talked a little bit about this Nebraska preview. But Dylan, we've got this great little segment that we've been having here on Hawkeyes and Tallboys on what we like to call Dylan's keys to victory. And I don't know if you got those queued up, Dill, if you want to kind of let us know on what you think
I
it's going
sure
to take
do.
these
I
Hawkeyes
sure
to
do.
beat the Huskers.
Yep. And, and Blaine, feel free to correct me or, haggle with me. It'll make for good.
We could even send it down to maybe see what Blaine's keys to victory for Nebraska would be.
I like that. I like that.
Maybe afterwards.
Go after me. But no, guys, the number one key to victory, and you guys have heard me say this a few times now, and Blaine essentially alluded to it too, because we've talked about this, I think, every week. There's no need to get cute on offense. What do we need to do? Let's all say it in unison. Run the damn ball. That's it. Run the damn ball.
We got to make
we will be successful. We need to make shirts that say "Run the damn ball."
We
Hawkeyes.
need to. We're gonna do it.
Okay, I agree because that'd be
There-
phenomenal. Because
That's
again,
that's funny you say that, Dell. 'Cause that reminds me of you guys remember old Grandpa Mike Riley?
sure do.
He was good to you guys, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, he was so good to the Hawkeye faithful.
I mean,
There used to be like a radio show I'd listen to, and there was this old guy he'd call in because Mike Riley would throw the ball like 65 times a game.
Mhm.
So he threw it 70 times at Nebraska. Anyways, he'd call in, he would scream, "Run the damn ball," and then he'd hang up on the radio.
See, this guy sounds.
He
like
was awesome.
I like him.
He knew what he was talking about.
And
Run the damn ball.
And that's just the way, I think this Nebraska team, they're pretty similar, I think, in regards to Penn State, where, they have the players to be a pretty damn good team. They really do, in particular in the skill positions. Where they lack is they just haven't put it all together yet, with the exception of that Penn State game. So, kind of going along with running the damn ball, I think just time of possession is going to be a factor because this Nebraska team, just watching them on tape, you noticed it a few times versus Ohio State and again versus Northwestern Illinois as well. But, they have the potential for the big plays. They have the potential for the deep balls. They got the speed on the outside where if they get around you, there's a good chance you're not going to catch them. So, I think we just keep the ball out of their hands, control the time of possession, control the clock, control the ball, control the run game. And, I think that's another huge, huge key to victory. And, and these same three key, I'm about to drop this third key to victory, but, it's probably been the same for a lot of Iowa games this year. And just with the style of teams we're playing. But again, our defense just needs to continue forcing turnovers. In particular, when McCaffrey's playing, Luke McCaffrey at the quarterback for Nebraska, over Adrian Martinez, this team is susceptible to turnovers in particular because they got a freshman out there starting at quarterback. Not a true freshman because he played a little bit last year, but you know what I'm getting at. So still a young guy out there, and there's, they're susceptible to turnovers. So I think, guys, those are my big three right there. It's running the damn ball, time of possession, and forcing turnovers on D. Now, Blaine, feel free to respond to any of those. Otherwise, give me your three keys to the game for Nebraska to win.
First off, before you do that, Blaine, let me just update those stats just for the betting. If there's props out there, I just want to inform the degenerates. So Iowa Hawkeyes in their 3 wins, Michigan State ran the ball for 226 yards. Against Minnesota, we ran the ball 235 yards. Against Penn State, it was 175 yards. So between those three, and the first two games we didn't come close to that because we were trying to pass the ball. We have not yet hit the 250-yard or even the 230-yard. Well, I guess once.
Well, the prop was 230 though, I thought, right?
Yep.
Wasn't it 230, Bo?
Yep.
That's
230.
kind of right on the money.
They got that once
against Minnesota.
What was the team they got it against?
Minnesota, the worst defense in the Big Ten.
Rush defense.
Rush defense.
I would argue to say the worst.
Minnesota's defense is bad. Like I will like Nebraska's defense isn't very good, but Nebraska's defense is a little better than Minnesota's.
Right.
But
That's kind of what I noticed too. I'd take the under there. I don't think Iowa's going to hit that. I think they're going to get well over 100 yards, which, Kirk Ferentz is like 153 when the Hawks rush for over 100 yards. But I think 230 is a little high.
Yeah. I think it'll be close though, to be honest. I don't think they're going to mix enough to where they're not going to get 230 yards, but you got to think about this, how well Mekhi Sargent's been running the ball, how well Tyler Goodson's been running the ball last couple of weeks. They might even get Ivory Kelly Martin in if things get out of hand. So I don't know. I feel pretty good about this running game. Getting over 230 yards.
Yep.
I think it's going to be super close to 230. It'll be very, very close.
For sure.
Oh, and we touched on it too,
take
when I said something about forcing turnovers, but specifically looking at Nebraska so far this season, they have 10 turnovers in their
turnover machine.
Yeah, and so specifically that's 6 interceptions and 4 fumbles, and I know Blaine alluded to it with them going to the quarterback rush a lot because I think a few of those have been Luke McCaffrey as well. So, if Iowa's defense comes to play and gets a few turnovers under their belt early, it could get ugly quick.
So yeah, my 3 keys. 2 keys and then a conspiracy theory. So
nice.
2 keys for Nebraska to have any sort of success. They have to have success right away, and they have to have a lot of early success to instill confidence. It's needed because if Iowa has early success and Nebraska doesn't, that's a lot for this team to be asked to do. And then the second thing, I think Nebraska needs a gift from Iowa. The last 2 years, Iowa has given Nebraska a gift. Kirk Ferentz, for whatever stupid reason, 2 years ago, on the 3-yard line, instead of kicking a field goal, went for it on 4th down. You remember this? And Nebraska stopped him at like the 2. Yes, the fake field goal. I don't know why he did that. Okay, and that opened up, kept it a 2-score game. Gift from Iowa. Kept Nebraska in the game. And then Iowa was running the ball at will against Nebraska, and they run this awful out route fake bubble screen, and Stanley throws a pick 6 against Nebraska last year. Back-to-back years, Iowa's just gift-wrapped at Nebraska, here's some points here. Whether it was Iowa not trying to score a very easy field goal or to just continue doing what was already successful and throwing an awful out route to one of the better corners, in my opinion, in the Big Ten, and he caught it and ran it the other way for 6 points. So I just, if Iowa doesn't give away free plays to Nebraska, I don't think there's a chance. And then my conspiracy thing. So Nebraska has lost 5 times in a row, right? It's 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Kirk had just lost, I think it was 5 times in a row to Penn State. And he just ended that streak with this win. But I think in the very next week, maybe the football gods end Nebraska's 5-game losing streak since Kirk just lost his 5-game losing streak to Penn State. I don't know. I know it's at least 4 because he had never beaten James Franklin before last week.
Right.
So I don't know. One streak ends for the Hawks or for Penn State. Okay. Iowa ends a streak of another team, but then another team ends a streak of the Hawks. I don't know.
The week before,
Happened.
Iowa continued their streak against Minnesota. We beat them 6 straight years. So Not so fast, my
Good.
friend.
Not
Well-
so fast, my friend.
That's a great segue into predictions. We can try to talk about, kind of remind all the degenerates, I guess, here what the line is. So, like we had mentioned, it's over under of 53. The Hawks are minus 13.5 point favorites against the Huskers. Let's go ahead and send it over. I'll go ahead and start us out here. And then we'll go around, and then Blaine, we'll have you go last because I want to hear what your predictions are too. Obviously, for the game, we'll see how we do.
Deal.
So I think that this is going to be a similar game to how Minnesota went. And sorry, Blaine, but I think this is going to be a blowout. I think that Iowa's defense has hit a stride. So hopefully our offense can sort of hold up their end of the bargain. But I think that it's going to be. And it's going to hit the under, and I think it's going to be 27-7 Iowa victory. Well,
Nice. I'll take the next one here. That's pretty good. That's pretty good prediction there, Rob. So I'm 0-5 this year, and I'm going to change my losing ways. I'm going to go with the Hawks this week, and the reason being is for what Brain said. We're going to keep the streak going, not 5 years, but 6 years on Nebraska also. I'm going the under, but I'm taking the spread. I got the Hawks winning 35-17 over Nebraska. Dill, past you.
Okay. I've gone back and forth with this pick quite a bit because, as Blaine alluded to, victory came in the form of game-winning field goals as time expires from, the past couple of years with Miguel Racinos and Keith Duncan. So that being said, I do think that ends this year. I'm going with 34-20, the Hawkeyes on top. For you bettors out there, I'd still buy a point or two because it never fails in these games. It seems like there's a funky score in there somewhere, like a 33-19, like kind of thing. So buy a point. Take the hit from your total bet, but I think it's safe to say the Hawks are going to come out on this one and barely hit that over. I think I bet because you guys said 53.5, right? So I'm at 54. So
Yeah.
barely hit the over.
My betting to the line of 13.5 Iowa. How much money's in your wallet? Because put it on that because that's going to happen. Iowa's winning by at least 14. As far as the over or under, I would go under. So Rob's pick, I like that. Bo, I'm pretty sure yours was under as well.
Yep. I was at 52.
You're under. My original pick, I was looking. I was like, it was last Saturday, and I was, coping with losing to Illinois by multiple touchdowns, which is not easy to do for any Big Ten football fan. But I had said something like 45-7 Iowa wins or something like that. But not too far from that. I'm probably looking at like a 38-14 game. Iowa wins.
And Blaine, that's why we do the podcast on Wednesday. We get some time to, cool off, if you will.
Calm down. Yeah. 45-7 is not that far away from 38-14, but that 13.5 spread, it's the biggest it's been since Bo Pelini Nebraska team had like a 12.5 spread, like in 2011 or 12 or whatever. Pretty sure it was the first year. But other than that, I'm pretty sure it's been single digits since. But even then, Iowa's winning by at least 14. Iowa wins 38-14.
Looking at the last few years that these teams have played each other, I could see this being a 2017 game too.
Yep.
But
that wouldn't surprise me either.
I'm just saying that just like, I don't know, to discredit my last prediction. But regardless, those are our predictions. So
Iowa being in firm control, like 20-0 with like 9 minutes left. And somehow Nebraska blocks a punt, returns a touchdown. And now they got some juice. I could see something like stupid like that happening.
I could see it being like
But
I could see it being like a 17-3 game all game. And then Nebraska scores to put them like 17-10. And then, you know what I mean? Like I could see like or is that right? Is that math right? Yeah. And then like there being some scoring late and then Keith Duncan field goal 2017. I don't know. That seems to be the way this rivalry plays out. But regardless.
Do you think if Keith Duncan wins the game again, he blows Frost another kiss?
Absolutely. There's no doubt.
I mean, they got a little romance going now. He can't. I mean, he's got to follow it up.
I guess. I guess.
If he does do that, like, what do you think Frost's reaction is going to be?
I don't know.
Punch him in the
might
face.
yell at the ref again. I don't know. Double middle fingers.
Hey, if he does, we should all take a shot at tequila.
If he does, Scott Frost is going to hide in his girlfriend's closet, bro.
Keith Duncan's girlfriend's closet?
Could be.
Scott Frost, Mr. Steal Your Girl, dude.
You listening?
Oh my gosh.
If Keith is listening in, oh my land.
Hey, watch your girl around Scott Frost. Don't piss him off, bro.
Tag this man. Please tag this man.
All right. That's all. I think that's everything we got. Any more final thoughts, guys?
Overall, I think if Iowa there's no need to get cute. I know I think as long as this is a classic, boring, run the ball, grind them out game, I think Iowa's going to come on top.
I think so too. Well,
I guess I'm sad overall because I never really got to talk about like tailgating in Iowa City. Like that's always something you look forward to, and that's not going to happen. But
friggin' COVID.
I guess.
Give it 2 more years, Bran. 2 years from now.
Two more years?
Well, I'm not so sure that next year everything's going to be changing. But we can go ahead and close
knock it off
with a little victory polka, just like we do every episode. Thank you so much for listening to Hawkeyes and Tallboys. Make sure to follow us.
There we go.
On Instagram. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Tallboys. Obviously, we'll be posting this on all of our platforms. So cheers and go Hawks.
Rocco!